What is happening today with the internet? We are trying to negotiate new norms about what is proper behavior and what is improper behavior. And around that, it's not just about privacy. It's also about our ability to be public. It's also about our ability to take over institutions and change those institutions. And I welcome that, whether the institution is the press or whether the institution is universities, both of which are my worlds. I think that changing them is a good thing, all in all. And in any case, we have to recognize that there are opportunities that come, and we have to be able to explore those opportunities, pardon me, without fear. So I think that these days we have a lot of talk about fear, and that is made worse, unfortunately, by my countrymen in the National Security Agency, in terms of making us all fear whether or not America is watching all of you. And I apologize on behalf of America for this. I think it's a disturbing time, but it is also an illustration of why transparency is good. One can argue about whistleblowing and about leaks, but I think that it is unquestionable that in a democracy, the more we know, the better. There are necessary secrets for security, but we have too much of a reflex now to make government and the operation of our government secret, and that's a problem. So I celebrate at least the discussion we are having right now about transparency, openness, privacy, and rights around what has happened from Edward Snowden. There is an argument that says that you never controlled your brand, that your brand is your relationship with the public, and the public owns your brand. You just couldn't hear what the brand was, and now you can. So that may be going a little too far, but that's what I do. So I think there's truth in that. But I think that the real relationship to have is to see yourself as a servant of your customer, obviously, as in the public, and to enable the public to take more control and to move the customer up the line. So that now the customer gets involved only when the product is fully designed and manufactured and marketed, and then they have the chance to say something. And the ideal in not just marketing, but in the entirety of an industry is, can we move the customer up the line earlier in the process so that they have a role in the marketing, in the creation, and in even the conceptualization and design of products. So two examples I'll talk about later today. One is called Local Motors, that enables people to come together and help design automobiles. And this is rather absurd if you think about it, right? Who wants to drive the beta car that's been designed by a committee? But, The Simpsons was on TV here, yeah? So Homer Simpson designed the Homer at one point, which was a disaster, and it bankrupted his cousin's car company. So this sounds absurd, but in fact, Local Motors has found that their community is very good at helping to decide about design. There's another company in the US called Quirky. I don't know if you've heard about that. Quirky is fascinating because it enables inventors to send in ideas, and then it makes the ideas if they are passed along. And the process of even deciding which things to make is a public process there. So those things move the customer up the line, where the issue then isn't control. The issue then is the relationship you have with the public. So I hear companies talk about secrecy, corporate secrecy. We need to have our secrets. And that's been the presumption of industries for a century. And now they say, well, what happens if my competitors hear my ideas? What happens if the public hears my ideas before we do it? Or what happens if the ideas aren't mine, they're the public's? Well, the question at the end of the day is, would you rather be a company known for your secrets or known for your relationship of trust and respect with the public? And I would argue that where we head necessarily now is the latter, where you have to have a relationship of trust and respect. So you get into, I like that this industry, I don't know how long this has been the case, this industry here in Germany is called dialogue marketing. Yeah? We call it direct marketing in the US, as you know, which direct marketing implicates that I'm just going to send you a message and you will take it. Dialogue marketing at least presumes there is some back and forth and some conversation, which makes it compatible with social media, which makes it compatible with this idea of finding new ways to listen to customers. So the people who are here as marketers have the opportunity to be that connection with the public to listen to the public in new ways, to get the ideas from the public. That will strengthen the brand in the long run. And so when you hand over control of the brand to the public, when you give them that trust and respect, you get more back in return than just control. Clearly, there is a cultural difference. And as an American, I have to keep that in mind, that it's very hard for us to see outside of our borders and see those differences. And that's why I so enjoy coming here to try to learn and understand those differences. I was speaking about this a couple of years ago with a bunch of editors at Die Zeit, and was talking about the idea of an internet culture, and does an internet culture exist? And he said that he talked about the German attitude, and his generation's attitude toward Datenschutz was certainly what I was saying, but he said, my daughters don't live that way. My daughters live online, and they live to a different view of privacy. And so it makes me wonder whether there is indeed an internet culture. Now, that's risky to say, because I don't think it's necessarily true. But I do think the internet is a universal that will have an impact on all of our cultures and will change those views. It's a mistake to say that young people don't care about their privacy. Dana Boyd, who's a brilliant researcher, says they very much care about their privacy. They have different ways to manage that. It would be a mistake to say that Germans are entirely private or Americans are entirely public, same way. But the internet and social media have an impact on all of us. Now, that impact can come in two ways. It can come from the side of fear. Oh my God, what's going to happen here? People are going to see what I'm doing. Or it can come from the side of opportunity. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity to be taken here, and that's what I try to talk about, is opening that up. One more point. I find it interesting, too, when I talk to my German friends about entrepreneurship. I teach journalists to be entrepreneurs, to start businesses. We have an article of faith in America now that failure is good, that failure is a lesson, and that we learn from failure. Now, my German friends tell me it's not so much the same in Germany, that one doesn't like to fail in public as much in Germany. I don't know if that's true or not. You can tell me better. But that's the kind of touch point where the internet can have an impact on a culture. Right? So it's not just that it's Silicon Valley taking over. It's not that. It's that the internet enables people to put something out to the world before it's finished, before it's perfect, and to learn from people when they do that. That's why Google puts out a beta. Right? By Google doing that, they're saying, this is imperfect, it's unfinished, please help us finish this. That's a very different thing from an industrial way to look at the world. Right? That's what the internet enables. So that's the company thinking and developing in public. And thus, they have to be ready to fail in public. So yes, the cultures in Europe and the rest of the world and America are different. But I find people my generation in the US, just as people anywhere else, finding new pressures from the internet to think in new ways. And so I don't think it's about an American culture versus a European culture. I think it's about a new factor in all of our cultures. So I work in the newspaper industry in the US, and I have for many years, and I'm going next after this to the Global Editors Network meeting in Paris, and I came 2 weeks ago from the World Newspaper Congress in Bangkok. And those can be sad gatherings. Because our business, if we think our business is making newspapers, then it's a crappy business, right? But if we think our business is serving the public, well, we have all kinds of new ways to do it. And so the hard thing is to get past this idea of defining ourselves by our old industrial assumptions and to see the new opportunities. So if you think you are only in one business, one old business, yes, that's going to be a problem. But if you realize what the essence of your business is in marketing, I think there's all kinds of new opportunities. Part of the problem here is this idea of dialogue and messaging too in advertising, right? That I think Google came along, and my prior book was called Was wurde Google tun, so I think about this a lot. Google came along and didn't steal business from newspapers, no matter what Springer says, or Murdoch. Google offered advertisers a better deal because Google shared the risk with the marketer, right? I only pay at the beginning if you click. And Google then no longer was in the business of controlling a subsidy, controlling a scarcity, like media were, but instead took advantage of an abundance. They put ads everywhere because they wanted better places to get better targeting. And that's the way they constantly think. I was at a Guardian event with Google in New Delhi a couple of months ago, and Eric Schmidt was there. And he took out his phone. I think it was an Android phone, I'm not sure. And he's, the presumption in my business is that we go from, and Dr. Borda said this once, damn digital pennies. Yeah? We go from print dollars to web dimes to mobile pennies. That's the way we think it's going in my business. But Schmidt stood there and said, marketing on this is going to be more valuable because we know who you are and we know something about you. All fears about Dot and Schutz put aside for a moment. This is a tool for relationships. This is a tool for getting to know someone as an individual. This is a tool to be able to give them higher relevance and higher value. So as long as we see our opportunities there, I think that marketing becomes potentially far more effective, far more efficient, far less irritating, far more valuable. And if we use social media and use the internet for those reasons, then I think that there is great success to be had. But again, we have to be aware that it changes our industrial assumptions about how we operated, and it changes our relationship with the public, with our customers, in ways that can be scary at first, but in the long run, I think give us greater value.